Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a viral narrative that connects your pain at the gas pump right to mysterious refinery fires and, get this, a 50-year-old geopolitical secret. If you've been watching the markets or honestly just filling up your car lately, you know energy costs are a huge topic. But the source material we're looking at today takes those everyday economic pain points and weaves them into a much larger, highly coordinated global tapestry. So we're going to break down exactly what this narrative is claiming, step by step, using the very information they've presented.
So according to the source, there's a hidden thread tying historical agreements made decades ago directly to present-day industrial anomalies. It's a pretty bold claim with massive scale. It essentially suggests that what we're seeing on the daily news isn't just a series of unfortunate, isolated events, but rather a deliberate chain of dominoes that was set up half a century ago.
All right, diving into Section 1, the global oil mystery. Rising prices and burning refineries.
The narrative anchors itself on a staggering geographic anomaly. Get this, within a single 30-day window, 7 different oil refineries across incredibly diverse global locations suddenly caught fire. We're talking Texas, Australia, Mexico, Ecuador, India, Myanmar. And crucially, the source points out that none of these are in active war zones. There's literally no traditional military conflict causing this massive, widespread infrastructure damage.
Now, when authorities were asked about these fires, the official response was totally uniform, a quote-unquote technical faults. But the narrator of the source material asks us to genuinely consider the mathematical probability here. They are heavily questioning how identical, catastrophic technical faults could simultaneously happen across 7 completely different regions, under completely different management, all within one single month. The skepticism toward that official explanation is intense.
Which brings us to Section 2, the petrodollar system, the 1974 secret deal.
To explain the motive behind these alleged events, the source takes us way back in time to the foundational history of global oil trading. In 1974, Henry Kissinger traveled to Saudi Arabia and brokered a secret deal. Under this specific agreement, Saudi Arabia committed to selling its oil to the rest of the world exclusively in US dollars, and then investing those dollars right back into American government bonds. In exchange, the US promised military protection. The theory emphasizes that this deal ensured the US dollar, which, remember, had just been taken off the gold standard, would remain in constant, unyielding global demand. Because any country on Earth that needed to buy oil, well, they had to acquire US dollars first to do it.
Now, the source's theory absolutely hinges on this timeline. The narrative claims that 50 years of geopolitical stability totally fractured when that original agreement expired in June of 2024, and Saudi Arabia chose not to renew it. Following this massive shift, the timeline then points to February 2025, where Iran reportedly closes the Strait of Hormuz. Just for some quick context, an incredible 20% of the entire world's oil passes through that single maritime choke point.
Moving right into Section 3, the economic catalyst, a halt in the Gulf.
The closure of that strait wasn't just a logistical nightmare. The source claims it actually halted the Gulf's entire economic model overnight. To illustrate the alleged desperation of the situation, the narrative points to a massive, historic figure. For the first time ever, the Saudi government had to borrow $11 billion simply to survive and cover its skyrocketing expenses amidst these wildly fluctuating global oil prices.
And the core of this economic theory lies in a massive deficit. On one side, you have the current global market price hovering around $100 per barrel. But on the flip side, you have the Saudi economic survival price. According to the source, the government can now only maintain its economy if the international market price hits $170 per barrel. Guys, that is a looming $70 per barrel gap between reality and what is allegedly required just to keep the state afloat.
So, if a government desperately needs the price of a commodity to almost double, what's the playbook? Well, according to the logic presented in the source, it requires 3 very distinct steps. The only mathematical way to achieve that vital $170 mark is through Step 1, a drastic artificial reduction in global oil supply. This massive supply shock leads directly to Step 2, forcing the international markets to basically bid the price up to that $170 threshold. All of which culminates in Step 3, ensuring the economic survival of the Saudi state.
And that loops us right back to Section 4, 7 burning refineries. Coincidence or strategy?
7 refineries, 1 month. One reason? The narrative strongly proposes that these fires were absolutely not coincidental technical faults. Instead, they were a coordinated, highly deliberate effort to destroy processing capacity, restrict that global supply, and artificially drive up the price per barrel just to meet that $170 requirement. It paints a picture of a world where massive infrastructure is intentionally sacrificed purely for macroeconomic survival. Finally, we hit Section 5, the final agenda, a new global order. The source argues that all of these orchestrated events, from the expiration of the petrodollar right down to the refinery fires, are actually part of implementing something they call Agenda 2030. In the specific narrative, that term represents a deliberate orchestration of global inflation, totally designed to push the entire world toward a severe economic depression. It suggests that the current financial chaos we're seeing is entirely by design, paving the way for a fundamental restructuring of the entire global economy.
And the ultimate goal of this grand design? The source contrasts the past where oil was just an accessible, everyday commodity powering our lives with a pretty grim projected future. A paradigm where oil is a highly restricted luxury item reserved only for a wealthy elite. In this supposed New World Order, ordinary people are systematically stripped of their purchasing power.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you to ponder this final thought. Regardless of whether you view the source's claims as a string of wild coincidences or a highly coordinated geopolitical strategy, the questions raised about our fundamental energy dependency are absolutely massive. If energy access is severely restricted and oil truly becomes a luxury item, how would that shockwave ripple through the fundamentals of your daily life, your community, and our global society? It's a really heavy concept to unpack, but understanding these viral narratives is the very first step in making sense of the complex world around us.